Chapter 3745. In the next second, Sweet Dream's gaze couldn't help but fall on Bewitching. In that case, could this extremely handsome man in front of her be the one she admired? Noticing Sweet Dream's gaze, Bewitching immediately said, "I am Bewitching, but my real name is Bewitching." Hearing Bewitching's words, Sweet Dream's eyes couldn't help but flash with disappointment. The surprise in her heart was also unusually strong. In the past, she already felt that Bewitching was very handsome, but she didn't expect his real appearance to be so outstanding. She suddenly understood why Bewitching and the others had to disguise themselves before. With such an outstanding appearance, they would definitely attract attention no matter where they went. It would be impossible to keep a low profile, even if they wanted to. However, after knowing Bewitching's identity, Sweet Dream's expectant gaze fell on A.O. Lingxiao. "I presume this is young Master Bei." A.O. Lingxiao looked at Sweet Dream in front of him in confusion, then shook his head and said, "I'm not Bei, I'm A.O. Lingxiao." Hearing this, Sweet Dream was stunned. The joy in her eyes quickly dissipated and was replaced by a strong surprise and disappointment. Her voice was obviously a bit depressed. "Young Master Bei didn't come?" As her voice fell, the mocking gazes of Shangwan Ying and the others couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a love debt caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any thoughts to make Sweet Dream misunderstand before, it was obvious that Sweet Dream's heart was tied to her. Noticing that everyone was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, the puzzlement in Sweet Dream's eyes couldn't help but become stronger. Ahem, Bailey Hongzhuang coughed twice. She still had to solve her own sins. Sweet Dream. Actually, Bailey Hongzhuang looked a little awkward. "I am Bei." As soon as these words came out, Sweet Dream suddenly froze in place. Her incredulous eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Her whole person seemed to be frozen, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang, but she couldn't say a complete word. You said you are young Master Bei?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "That's right. In order to hide our identities, I had no choice but to disguise myself as a man." Sweet Dream felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She could not believe this at all. However, the eyes of Shangwan Ying and others clearly told her that this unbelievable thing was the truth. Even after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered the residence, Sweet Dream still couldn't believe that the person she loved was actually a woman. He was so outstanding, powerful, and skilled in medicine, but she had never thought that Bei would actually be a woman. However, that identity card clearly told her that she was really Bei. For a moment, Sweet Dream was both disappointed and ashamed. It was not easy for her to fall in love with someone. It was really hard to imagine that it would be such a funny situation. She finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had such a strange expression when she saw her. Anyone who was liked by a woman would feel strange. Sweet Dream was immersed in her own thoughts for a long time before she remembered that she should inform Steward Qin. After all, Steward Qin had always been looking forward to the return of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 3746. Great! They're back. Steward Qin stood up happily and excitedly paced back and forth in the room. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, he had been very disappointed. He admired Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills very much. If Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to develop well in this area, she would definitely become the most outstanding doctor on Penglai Island. However, ever since he failed to buy back the Tears of Cold Flame at the auction, he had no more news about Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He originally thought that they would not come back, but today he unexpectedly learned that they had returned. This news was truly a pleasant surprise for him. Previously, the healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang had given him made him a lot of money, and the magic training pagoda had also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. A few days ago, he suddenly heard that the Penglai Palace had also released a kind of healing medicine that seemed to be more outstanding than his healing medicine. It had a better restraining effect on the dark power. However, at present, this healing medicine was only popular in the Penglai Palace and had not been spread out for the time being, so he did not know how powerful that prescription was. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, his confidence suddenly increased. "I'll go see them immediately." Steward Qin stood up and was ready to leave, but when he reached the door, he stopped again. "No, they just arrived. They should need to rest now. I'd better go later." Sweet Dream looked at Steward Qin's appearance and sighed in her heart. Usually, in this magic training pagoda, the cultivators were all busy coming to see Steward Qin, but they were not welcomed by him. Who would have thought that this situation would be the complete opposite for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others? Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four rested in the room for a while before heading to the arena area. Usually, everyone's cultivation intensity had always been very high, so even though they had rushed here, they did not feel tired. Previously, due to our lack of strength, we were often ostracized in this arena area. This time, we had to do our best to pass through as many stages as possible. Once we have gathered enough killing intent, we can attempt the legacy trial. Shangguan Yingying's eyes were filled with kindness. Although they had only left the demon training tower for a few months, their strength had increased by quite a bit. Their overall strength had increased. She believed that it wouldn't be a problem for them to pass a few levels. "Let's get through as soon as possible and try the legacy trial as soon as possible." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were deep. If they could obtain the inheritance, their strength would increase greatly. In this way, they would be able to return to Penglai Palace as soon as possible to take revenge on Chu Yunyao. The humiliation that Chu Yunyao had inflicted on them, they had to get it back in person. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. With their current level of improvement, it wouldn't be a problem for them to clear a few levels in a row. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the arena area, it undoubtedly caused a sensation. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, they all looked at them with amazement in their eyes. However, this also stimulated everyone's desire to fight. They only wanted to beat them down. "I'll go up first." Shangguan Yingying smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and couldn't wait to walk up to the arena. She had a stomach full of anger from Chu Yunyao, so she could vent it here. Chapter 37:47. Look at your weak appearance. Once you enter this arena, you will only die. The woman looked at Shangguan Yingying mockingly. "If you give me your lover, I will let you admit defeat. How about it?" Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying's lips curled into a light smile. The style of the demon training tower was indeed the same as before. Everyone was extraordinarily arrogant. However, ever since she left the demon training tower, she also realized that the combat strength of the demon training tower's cultivators was indeed very strong. After all, staying in this environment where the strong preyed on the weak had long since died. When she first came here, she did not understand the law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest. However, she had only been on Penglai Island for a few months, and she had been rapidly improving. Although she had been humiliated and tortured by Chu Yunyao this time, after this incident, she had also grown a lot. Although she had come out to train in the past, she had always been under the protection of Xiren and the others. Now, she hoped that she could be independent. This was what she wanted. "Have you taken a fancy to my man?" Shangguan Yingying chuckled. When the woman saw Shangguan Yingying's indifferent appearance, a hint of displeasure flashed across her eyes. The girl in front of her looked much younger than her and was also a newcomer. Now, she actually dared to look down on her? "That's right, but soon he won't be your man because you'll become a dead person," the woman said coldly. "Then let's see if you have the ability." Shangguan Yingying's eyes turned cold. "The person who will die, I'm afraid it will be you." In the next second, Shangguan Yingying was too lazy to talk nonsense with the woman. Her figure flashed, and her movements were as fast as lightning. A fist directly struck towards the woman's temple. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying was so ruthless, the woman could not help but be stunned. She put away some of her contempt and carefully dealt with it. She hurriedly blocked Shangguan Yingying's fist. Shangguan Yingying was not surprised that her fist was blocked. Her fist turned into a palm and once again attacked the woman's neck. His speed and the dexterity of his hands were dazzling. The aura of the 6th level of the Purple Realm was instantly exposed. When the cultivators present found out that Shangguan Yingying's cultivation had already reached the 6th level of the Purple Realm at such a young age, astonishment appeared on their faces. They really didn't expect this girl to have such strength. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. The woman who had been speaking arrogantly also felt Shangguan Yingying's power during the fight. In a short time, her arrogance disappeared and was replaced by caution. As long as a cultivator made a move, one would know their strength. After this exchange, she already knew that her chances of winning were not very high. In the stands, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others noticed Shangguan Yingying's swift and decisive attack, and their eyes flashed with astonishment. It seems that Yingying has improved a lot recently. Di Beichen's lips suddenly curved, and his deep eyes rippled with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, the way she attacks is much more ruthless than before. She attacks the opponent's vital points immediately, not giving the opponent a chance to counterattack. It's poles apart from her previous fighting style. Chapter 3748. Xiren looked at Shangguan Yingying in the arena, his eyes full of gentleness. He could clearly feel the little change in Shangguan Yingying these days. Although the competition was not over yet, they could all see that Shangguan Yingying was bound to win. Bang! With a violent sound, the woman was directly beaten down by Shangguan Yingying. She fell to the ground and could not move at all. Shangguan Yingying stepped on the woman's body and slowly squatted down. She looked down at the woman and said, "Are you still interested in my man?" The woman looked at Shangguan Yingying in shock. A dagger was pressed against her face. Obviously, if she dared to say yes, Shangguan Yingying's sharp blade would not hesitate to cut her skin. "No, not interested." The woman quickly shook her head. "Huh." Shangguan Yingying chuckled and said, "It's normal to love beauty. However, you have to see if you have the strength to do so. I'll spare your life today. However, if I hear you say something like this again, you can only become a ghost in my hands." After coldly looking at the woman, Shangguan Yingying lifted her foot and walked down the arena under the astonished gazes of the audience. "Mighty, domineering," Xiao He and Xiao Bai said one after another. Shangguan Yingying's lips curled into a smile. When she first arrived, she had already noticed that many women's covetous eyes fell on Xiren. Therefore, she had to defend her sovereignty. Sure enough, at this moment, many of the women below the stage had already restrained their gazes. It was obvious that they were shocked by her strength. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Shangguan Yingying a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Yingying, you're amazing. You're too kind." Shangguan Yingying waved her hand. "The reason why I was able to win so quickly is undoubtedly because the cultivators on this level are not very strong. When I meet a real opponent, it will be much more difficult. No matter what, we can see your improvement." "That's right, Yingying. We earned quite a bit from your match." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Almost no one was optimistic about you just now, so your odds are very high." As soon as they arrived at the arena area, they were used to placing bets. Now, they were undoubtedly much wealthier than before, so they were very generous with their bets. Coupled with the high odds, they undoubtedly made a lot of money. After Shangguan Yingying went on the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also went on the stage one by one. After witnessing Shangguan Yingying's strength, no one dared to underestimate them. However, they were still shocked to find that the strength of these 4 people was stronger than the previous one. When Di Beichen stepped onto the stage, he defeated his opponent with just one move. The entire arena fell into silence. A few days ago, a ruthless person appeared and taught many people a lesson. I didn't expect another powerful team to appear today. What's going on recently? I don't know. It just so happens that these people all look very outstanding. They look like pretty boys, but when they fight, they're just like bandits. It really makes people speechless. Chapter 3749. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise when they heard the crowd's discussion. I wonder what kind of ruthless person came to the demon training tower recently. Everyone is very afraid when they talk about it. It's really surprising. Xiren sighed. Bewitching raised his beautiful eyebrows. Since it's a ruthless person from the demon training tower, we will definitely meet him in the future. There's no need to worry. With our current situation, it should be very fast for us to win 10 matches in a row and then ascend to the next level. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, leveling up in these 2 levels is relatively fast. However, when the higher levels meet a Purple Realm 7th level cultivator, our speed will slow down. There's no need to be too anxious. In any case, whether we are in the Penglai Palace or here, we are all cultivating. After we finish the competition, we will directly go to the cultivation area to cultivate. We will spend more spirit stones, but our cultivation speed will increase faster. Bewitching's deep eyes were filled with wisdom. With our current situation, once we return to the Penglai Palace, Chu Yunyao will definitely think of ways to cause trouble for us. It will be very disadvantageous for us. There's nothing wrong with staying in the Demon Training Tower for a while. Chu Yunyao's strength had already reached the Purple Realm 9th level. In addition, she had an even stronger barrier. Once they were sincerely looking for trouble, although they could ignore it, they would inevitably be angered. Rather than that, they might as well raise their strength here before returning. At that time, they would be able to hold their heads high. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed, if we can obtain the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower, then we don't need to be afraid of Chu Yunyao anymore. Just the blood aura could forcefully raise her cultivation by 2 levels. She believed that the effect of the Demon Training Tower's inheritance wouldn't be bad either. The effects of the 2 auras stacked together would be a great weapon. A.O. Lingxiao had come to the Demon Training Tower before, so now he directly went to the cultivation area to cultivate. He didn't plan to come to the arena area to explore more. A.O. Lingxiao is also a rich person. I think the cultivation area he went to is not low level. Xiren raised his eyebrows, his face filled with a joking expression. Thinking back to when we first came here, we couldn't even afford to go to the cultivation area. Speaking of which, although I don't know A.O. Lingxiao's background, I still feel that his background should be extraordinary. It can be seen from his usual performance. Shangguan Yingying said. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment. If A.O. Lingxiao's background is extraordinary, then why have we never heard of this person when we were in the outside? Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, the expressions of Di Bei Chun and the others became complicated. I've never understood this, either. Ever since I arrived at Penglai Island, I've come to realize that there are far more experts in the Shengxian continent than I had imagined. Logically speaking, such experts should be extremely famous in the outside world, yet we've never heard of them. Bewitching's eyes were full of doubt. He had always found it hard to understand this point. He only felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what the problem was. At the same time, he was worried. If the cultivators of Penglai Island went to the outside world, then the situation in the outside world would be changed. Tiangang's sect and other places would be greatly affected. Chapter 3750. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, their faces showing a bit of confusion and helplessness. I don't understand. When Xiren sighed, there are so many cultivators on Penglai Island. If they go to the outside world, they will definitely be able to live a very comfortable life. Maybe they really only want to improve their cultivation? Just like how they already had status and glory in the outside world, they were still willing to come here to train in order to improve their strength. That's the only way we can think of it now. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. A higher realm indeed had an unparalleled charm to cultivators. It was normal for everyone to be willing to continue working hard. For cultivators, this improvement was endless. The stronger one was, the longer one's life would be. Just this point alone was enough to make people work hard. After returning from the arena area, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest did not return to their residence. Instead, they went to the cultivation area together. Now, they were not as embarrassed as before. There was no problem at all for them to cultivate in the cultivation area. After Bailey Hongzhuang gave the prescription of the healing medicine to Bai Tsangming, it meant that she would continue to earn spirit stones. Therefore, she did not need to spend much effort to refine medicinal pills in exchange for spirit stones. After paying enough spirit stones, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked into the cultivation area. As soon as they walked into the cultivation area, they realized that the density of the origin energy here had immediately increased. It seems that the origin energy in this cultivation area is indeed very dense. We're only on the first level of the cultivation area, and we can already feel it so clearly. When we reach the place where we cultivate, the origin energy will definitely be even denser. Xiren's eyes shone with a bright light of surprise. Cultivating here should be much faster. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Indeed. Not only can we find opponents in the arena area and gather killing intent here, we can also cultivate in the cultivation area to improve our cultivation. Staying here for a period of time will be beneficial to us. Arriving at this place, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of her master, Yulinfeng. This heaven stairway was a true divine tool for cultivation. Cultivating in such a dense origin energy, the speed of improvement would definitely be extremely astonishing. The reason why her father was able to recover his cultivation so quickly was inseparable from the heaven stairway. She just didn't know if everyone had received the letters they sent back. If they received it, with the spirit stones and the stairway to heaven, their cultivation speed would not be slower than when they were on Penglai Island. It might even be faster. It's pretty good if you think about it that way. Shangguan Yingying smiled. My biggest wish now is to quickly improve my cultivation and go back to take revenge on Chu Yinyao. The four of them looked at each other. This was not only what Shangguan Yingying wanted to do, but also what they wanted to do the most. The next day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three came out of the cultivation area and were about to head to the arena area, they unexpectedly saw Sweet Dream. At this moment, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again, Sweet Dream's expression was somewhat awkward. Ever since she knew that the person she liked was actually a woman, Sweet Dream only wanted to hide from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, Steward Qin believed that she had an extremely good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, so he arranged for her to inform them. Young Master D, Steward Qin was very happy when he heard the news of your return. He asked me to invite you to meet him. Chapter 3751. When they were planning to return to the magic refining tower, they had already expected that Steward Qin would come looking for them. Thus, they were not surprised by what Sweet Dream had said. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three appeared in front of Steward Qin, a hint of astonishment flashed across Steward Qin's face. Only after a moment did he return to normal. I'd already heard about your disguise from Sweet Dream, but when I saw your real faces, I was still shocked. Steward Qin's face was filled with an approachable smile as he slowly said, "Such a combination of handsome men and beautiful women is truly breathtaking. Steward Qin is too kind." Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three laughed. Although Steward Qin said that he had just found out about their disguise, they all knew in their hearts that with Steward Qin's strength, he had already seen through their disguise. It was just that he had never exposed it. I am truly ashamed that I was unable to buy the Tears of Cold Flame back at the last auction. Steward Qin's expression revealed a hint of embarrassment and helplessness. When he first went, he was full of confidence and felt that he would definitely be able to take the Tears of Cold Flame back in his bag. He didn't expect that the Golden Flame auction house would not give him any face, causing him to feel extremely helpless. Steward Qin, we all know that you have already tried your best to help us. It's just that the Golden Flame auction house did it on purpose. Di Beichun cupped his hands, his face full of understanding. Regarding this matter, they had never been the slightest bit dissatisfied with Steward Qin. Just by the fact that Steward Qin was willing to go to Penglai Island for this matter, they understood how much Steward Qin cared about this matter. It was just that from the beginning to the end, the Golden Flame auction house was unwilling to sell the Tears of Cold Flame. Fortunately, Di Beichun was lucky enough to meet Di Yujue. If it wasn't for Di Yujue giving Di Beichun a Tears of Cold Flame as a gift, they really didn't know what they would look like now. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not dissatisfied with him because of this matter, Steward Sheen heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. This matter really makes me feel ashamed. Have you found the tears of frigid flame yet?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. "We were lucky enough to find the tears of frostfire." As soon as these words were spoken, a hint of astonishment flashed across Steward Sheen's eyes. It was obvious that he found it hard to believe that they had actually found the tears of cold flame. As far as he knew, only the Golden Flame auction house seemed to have the tears of frigid flame, but Manager Jean had already explained the matter clearly, so logically speaking, it should be impossible. Even if he had such thoughts in his heart, Steward Sheen did not say it out loud. No matter what, it was a good thing to find Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "Are the four of you here to stay in the demonic refining tower for a period of time?" Steward Sheen asked with a smile. His heart was also very complicated. He wanted to get some better prescriptions from Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to have any needs, which made him feel a little helpless. Whether it was greed, lust, or anything else, as long as there was something he wanted, he would have a way. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't seem to need anything, which made him feel extremely helpless. However, as long as he could form a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, that would be good. Chapter 3752. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, the smile on Steward Sheen's face widened a little. "That's good. The inheritance of the demon refining pagoda has not been obtained for a long time. If you can obtain it, it would be a wonderful thing." Every time a cultivator succeeded in obtaining the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda, it would inevitably cause a sensation. Following that, many cultivators would come to the demon refining pagoda with the mentality of giving it a try. That was also the most lively time for the demon refining pagoda. However, although the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda was extremely famous, the chances of success were too small. Even Steward Sheen could not remember how long it had been since someone had successfully obtained the inheritance. Most of the cultivators who stayed in the demon refining pagoda were here to improve their cultivation. Other than some cultivators who came here for the first time and still had the idea of trying to break through, the other cultivators who had stayed here for a long time had no intention of breaking through. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled faintly. They naturally knew that the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda had not been obtained for a long time. Steward Sheen also hoped that someone would succeed. After all, this way, everyone would know how powerful the inheritance of the demon refining pagoda was. All right, have you heard that the Penglai Palace has recently produced a new type of healing medicine? The effect is extremely outstanding, and according to the news from the Penglai Palace, the effect of this healing medicine seems to be even better than the one that Miss Bailey made before. As he spoke, Steward Sheen paid attention to the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, full of probing. "I don't really believe this news. In the entire Penglai Island, there aren't many people whose medical skills are better than Miss Bailey's." Steward Sheen cursed in his heart. The healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang made had the effect of restraining the dark energy. If it was that easy to make, then the people of Penglai Island wouldn't have been helpless against the dark energy for so long. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching couldn't help but look at each other. They also understood that Steward Sheen's words were undoubtedly to test them. Thinking about it, Steward Sheen was also very concerned about their whereabouts during this period of time. "Steward Sheen, Penglai Island has indeed produced a good healing medicine," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Steward Sheen's face couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I was the one who made the medicine," Bailey Hongzhuang admitted frankly. Steward Sheen was slightly stunned. He had some guesses in his heart before, but he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to admit it so readily. "In that case, the four of you have joined the Penglai Palace?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Not bad. We are all disciples of Penglai Palace now." From a moment they appeared here with their real faces, they did not plan to hide their identities. With the identity of Penglai Palace's disciples, ordinary people would not come looking for trouble with them. No wonder. Steward Chen's eyes flashed with understanding. This tears of cold flame should also be obtained from the Penglai Palace, right? Although it was a question, Steward Chen's words were very certain. It was obvious that he had already determined this answer. Chapter 3753. The tears of frigid flame were given to them by Du Jue. Previously, Steward Chen had spent so much effort but still failed to obtain the tears of frigid flame from the Golden Flame auction house. If Steward Chen knew the truth, he might have a deeper grudge against the Golden Flame auction house. Rather than that, it was better to let Steward Chen continue to misunderstand. It was not a bad thing. Steward Chen could not help but sigh. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not disappear for no reason. It turned out that they had already joined the Penglai Palace in just a few months. As a result, it would be even more difficult for him to do business with Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. After all, with the Penglai Palace in the middle, the good things would definitely be snatched up by the Penglai Palace first. This could be seen from the fact that the Penglai Palace had Bailey Hongzhuang's newly developed healing medicine prescription. As soon as the new healing medicine prescription came out, the sales of the healing medicine he sold would decrease. Is the healing medicine that Miss Bailey made specifically targeted at the dark power? Steward Chen asked tentatively. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "That's right." Hearing this, Steward Chen was slightly stunned. Could it be that Miss Bailey is now an inner disciple of the Penglai Palace? As far as I know, only the inner disciples of the Penglai Palace can come into contact with the dark power. We just became inner disciples of the Penglai Palace a few days ago. It was not until Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left that Steward Chen could not help but sigh. Bai Tsangming really put in a lot of effort. He actually directly promoted Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to inner disciples. However, Bai's great contribution is indeed worthy of such a reward. Steward Chen's eyes gradually deepened. He really could not imagine how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. There were so many doctors and alchemists in the 100 Flowers Gate who could not do it. She actually developed a better healing medicine so quickly. It seems that Steward Chen still wants to continue doing business with you. Shangguan Yingying chuckled. When he heard that you won and became a disciple of Penglai Palace, I noticed that he was very disappointed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Steward Chen is a businessman. Now that he knows that the possibility of doing business is much smaller, he will naturally have such an expression. Everyone knew in their hearts that as long as they finished breaking through, there wouldn't be many opportunities to come to the Demon Refining Tower in the future. On the contrary, the days they spent in the Penglai Palace would increase by a lot. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would compete in the arena during the day and cultivate in the cultivation area at night. In a short period of time, they had already completed several 10-win streaks and gradually entered the high-level area of the arena area. For Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' lightning-like promotion speed, the cultivators of the MO Refining Pagoda couldn't help but be attracted by them. After all, their promotion speed was really too fast, and their momentum had only increased. How could they not pay attention to them? Within a few days, everyone's topic of discussion was Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Everyone was envious of their results. Recently, there have been a lot of fierce people who have come to challenge the Demon Refining Tower. First, there was a man dressed in black who single-handedly killed his way up. Now, a team has appeared. Almost all of their opponents have been defeated and were unable to stop them. The most important thing is that these cultivators are all very young. This kind of strength is truly terrifying. Chapter 3754. I've already seen through it. That man has been accumulating his murderous aura all the way in order to pass through the checkpoint area. However, even though he's invincible in the arena area, he'll still fail after passing through the checkpoint. You mean, How hard is it to obtain the Demon Tower's inheritance? If it wasn't for the fact that everyone believes that it exists, I would think that it's just a cover. There's no way to obtain it all. Killing intent is a very perverted aura. However, we've only heard of its use. I don't know if it's true or not. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the arena area, they heard the crowd's discussion. Immediately, they became more curious about the black-clothed man. I wonder what kind of black-clothed man he is. Recently, I've heard the most discussions about him. Xiron raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with curiosity. It's a pity that he's faster than us. When we entered the next level, he also entered the next level. Until now, we haven't seen him in person. Otherwise, I would really want to find out. That's right. Shangguan Yingying nodded. I feel that this black-clothed man is very mysterious. He's so young and seems to be alone. This kind of style is somewhat similar to Ao Ling Xiao. Hearing this, Ao Ling Xiao's lips curled up. When I first came to the Demon Tower, I wasn't as high profile as him. However, the effect is not much different. If that's the case, how likely do you think this man is to obtain the Demon Tower's inheritance? Shangguan Yingying asked curiously. Ao Ling Xiao pondered for a moment and said, I don't understand a situation, so I can't make a judgment. In short, I feel that compared to the perverted challenge area, this arena area is nothing. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. It seemed that the challenge area wasn't just difficult. Just from Ao Ling Xiao's expression, they could see that he had a deep impression of the challenge area. You're right, when Xiron agreed. When I was fighting in the Blood Tower, I felt that my performance was very good, but it wasn't until I broke through the levels that I realized how big the gap between the two was. Not to mention the Magic Training Tower's challenge area, just the Blood Refining Tower's challenge area was already very abnormal. Thinking about it, the Magic Training Tower's challenge area would only be more abnormal. We'll know the result when that person is done. Bewitching looked very indifferent. It's better for us to spend more time gathering murderous aura. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three continued to challenge the levels as usual. Ao Ling Xiao, on the other hand, seemed very casual. He spent most of his time cultivating in the cultivation area. Occasionally, he would come to watch the matches of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Among the five of them, Shangguan Yingying's improvement was the most obvious. Ever since the incident with Chu Yunyao, Shangguan Yingying seemed to have been enlightened. Her fighting style had changed a lot. Under such circumstances, the four people's battle record was also advancing rapidly. The murderous aura accumulated on their bodies was increasing. Many times, one could feel the sharp feeling in their eyes. Life went on in an orderly manner. It was worth mentioning that Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly issued a mission in the Magic Training Tower on a whim. The mission was very simple. It was to take a person's life. Chapter 3755. After knowing the news, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly issue this task, which was really beyond her expectations. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Yes, I want to take revenge with my own hands. Shangguan Yingying frowned. Although she couldn't wait for Chu Yunyao to go to hell as soon as possible, she still hoped that one day she could take revenge with her own hands. Only in this way could she be truly happy. I understand, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Since you understand, why do you still want to do this? Shangguan Yingying asked doubtfully. We are now cultivating hard in the Demon Refining Tower. We can't return to Palai Palace for a while. How can we let Chu Yunyao be free? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Since she likes to find trouble so much, I will help her make some trouble so that she won't feel bored. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying's pupils gradually widened, and a smile unconsciously appeared on her lips. You mean, face slapping. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips opened slightly and said two words concisely. He. Shangguan Yingying covered her mouth and chuckled. It seems that Chu Yunyao will be depressed for a while. With her unscrupulous character, she is suddenly hunted down. She has no choice but to stay in Penglai Palace. I think this kind of thing is what she can't stand the most. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. Although she and Chu Yunyao had known each other for a short time, she had almost figured out Chu Yunyao's character. The most important thing is that she absolutely can't stand everyone's gaze. This feeling is enough to make her crazy. She had never been a good person, nor was she a tolerant person. The rule she always believed in was that if people respected her, she would respect them. Since Chu Yunyao had given them such a big gift, she must send some interest back first. Shangguan Ying gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up. Good. What a brilliant move. She had always known that people who offended Hongzhuang would not have a good ending. Today, Hongzhuang's actions made her even more aware of this point. But if that's the case, will Chu Yunyao directly come to the magic refining tower? Shangguan Ying asked worriedly. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. That's only if she can come. Once her bounty was sent out, there were quite a few people who accepted it. If Chu Yunyao had been hiding in the Penglai Palace, many cultivators would not be able to enter the Penglai Palace. If she dared to come out, the result would be unknown. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others headed to the arena area to participate in the tournament as usual. However, as soon as they entered, they were surrounded by a clamor. There had always been cultivators fighting in the arena, but today no one was on it. Moreover, everyone's faces flashed with excitement and disbelief. It was as if they were not interested in the tournament at all. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other. The atmosphere in the magic refining tower today was really extraordinary. However, after they heard the contents of the crowd's discussion, their faces were also filled with shock. This is too unbelievable. That black-clothed man actually obtained the inheritance of the magic refining tower. Chapter 3756. From the looks of it, that black-clothed man is really a ferocious person. Once this news is spread out, he will be completely famous in Penglai Island. The most important thing is that this man is only in his 20s. His potential is simply shocking. I believe that very soon, various forces will throw him an olive branch. Sigh, comparisons are odious. I have lived 10 years longer than him, but my strength is not as good as his. Everyone's discussion revolved around the black-clothed man. There were those who were jealous, those who were envious, and those who were in love with him. Oh my God, he actually succeeded in passing the trial. Shangguan Ying could not help but exclaim. Ever since he went to the trial area, there has been no news from him. I thought that he had failed. I never thought that he would actually succeed. This person must be a true cultivation genius, Wen Ziren muttered. To be able to obtain the inheritance of the demon training pagoda, he must be an incredible existence. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun obtained the inheritance of the Blood Chi field, which was why they were so outstanding. For the other party to be able to obtain the inheritance of the demon training pagoda, it could be seen that the other party was not ordinary. This is really interesting. I never thought that we would meet such a genius cultivator the moment we arrived. Deep Beichun's eyes flashed with interest. It's a pity that we have not seen him yet. I wonder who he is. I hope that he will not leave immediately. That way, we might still have a chance to meet him. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She was filled with curiosity towards this genius cultivator. This news spread like lightning in the entire Penglai Island. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three discovered that the number of cultivators in the Demon Training Pagoda was increasing at a shocking speed. When they went to the arena area again, the spectator stands in the arena area were already filled with cultivators. Now, there were no more seats. There were 3 layers of people inside and 3 layers outside. If they wanted to watch an arena tournament, they had to grab a good seat as soon as possible. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying also discovered that the number of female cultivators in the Demon Training Pagoda was increasing rapidly. It was obvious that they were all in love with the black-clothed man and ran over, hoping that they would be lucky enough to obtain the man's favor. As expected, the attractiveness of a genius is truly astonishing. Shangguan Yingying shook her head and sighed. Fortunately, we're only here to participate in the challenge tournament. If we wanted to watch 2 matches, wouldn't be easy. When Xiren shook his head, I just want the competition to end quickly. Listening to all this noise is giving me a headache. I'm going up to the arena first. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and walked up to the ring. They had already stayed in the Magic Tower for more than a month, and the killing intent in their bodies had already accumulated quite a bit. As long as they could obtain 10 consecutive victories on this level stage, she would have the qualifications to go to the checkpoint area. However, not long after Bailey Hongzhuang stepped onto the ring, a cry of surprise erupted from the crowd, followed by a series of surprised and pleasantly surprised voices. He's coming. He actually came to participate in the single elimination tournament again. When Shangguan Yingying and the others below the stage heard the news, they all looked in the direction of the newcomer. Their hearts skipped a beat. Could Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent be this guy? Chapter 37:57. The man was tall and muscular. He wore a black robe and looked valiant. He wore a black mask on his face, which covered his face. He looked cold and mysterious. As he walked, he exuded a noble aura. Seeing the man appear, almost everyone's eyes fell on him. Everyone knew that it wouldn't be long before this man's status in Penglai Island would rise greatly. If they could become friends with him, it would be very beneficial for them. Unfortunately, this man seemed to be born with an extremely cold temperament, just like how he came to the Devil Refining Tower alone. Until now, no one had been able to say more than a few words to him. Shangguan Yingying looked at the man who was walking slowly in front of her. She frowned and said with a doubtful voice, "Xiren, don't you think that this man's figure looks familiar?" "Indeed," Xiren nodded. "I also think that he looks familiar. However, we don't know anyone on Penglai Island." After Di Bei-chun saw the person who had come, his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of surprise. He did not expect to meet him here. The man's footsteps were originally very light, but when he saw the figure on the stage, his footsteps clearly paused, and his body stiffened for a moment. Then his pair of calm black eyes suddenly bloomed with a bright light. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man standing in front of her. She didn't know why, but she felt a sense of familiarity in her heart. It was as if she knew him. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She was puzzled. How could she meet someone she knew on Penglai Island? Until now, the only friends they had were Penglai Palace's Ren Ziheng and the others. Hongzhuang. A deep and mellow voice slowly sounded. The man seemed to be excited. His voice was trembling. Hearing this familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly changed. Her face was filled with surprise. "You are..." The man in black reached out and took off the black mask on his face, revealing a handsome face. It was as if he had walked out from a portrait, coupled with his mysterious and noble temperament. He was just like a cold prince. Mo Yunjue. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the black figure in front of her in surprise. She was surprised and pleasantly surprised. She didn't expect to meet Mo Yunjue here. She also didn't expect that the genius cultivator that everyone was talking about was him. "Why are you here?" Mo Yunjue's face, which had always been cold, suddenly showed a smile, and his eyes, which were as deep as a black hole, bloomed with a soft brilliance. The ice that wrapped around him seemed to dissipate the moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. "I'm here to look for you." The crowd of cultivators below the stage were waiting to see the battle between Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have been in the limelight recently. Everyone hoped that someone would be able to take them down a notch. They didn't expect that the two of them knew each other. It was really surprising. I guessed it right. This man in black is really a handsome man. His talent is amazing. His appearance is even more handsome. If he could be my man, that would be great. Chapter 37:58. Heavens! Shangguan Yingying could not help but cry out in surprise, her face filled with astonishment. "It's actually Mo Yunjue? I never thought that I would meet him here." when Xiren could not help but glance at Di Beichen. He clearly remembered that this Mo Yunjue was Di Beichen's love rival. His infatuation for Bailey Hongzhuang was no less than Di Beichen's. Not only that, they had actually met on Penglai Island. Beichen, this love rival of yours is quite powerful. Xiren's eyes were filled with admiration. He really did not think that Mo Yunjue would be so powerful. He had already obtained the inheritance of the Demon Tower. Thinking about it, Mo Yunjue already possessed a murderous aura. This level of strength was truly extraordinary. Hearing this, Di Beichen looked at Xiren indifferently and said, Hongzhuang is already my wife. He can't be considered a love rival. Furthermore, even if he was, he would have already lost to me. Xiren, you don't need to say such things to provoke me. Seeing that Di Beichen did not buy into his words, Xiren could not help but shrug his shoulders. All right, since you've already seen through everything, I won't say anything more. Xiren, what nonsense are you spouting? Shang Guanying punched Xiren. You clearly know how much Hongzhuang loves Beichen. Why are you still spouting such nonsense? I was just joking. I wanted to see if Beichen would feel threatened. Xiren chuckled. However, this guy's already gotten his wife. Young Lord Mo will not be a threat. In fact, from the time when Di Beichen was unconscious and Bailey Hongzhuang's heartbroken expression, they already understood how deep the feelings between the two were. Furthermore, young Lord Mo was not someone who liked to interfere. It was precisely because of this that they admired Mo Yunjue. After all, there were not many people who could be so magnanimous. In the past, they only thought that the young lord of Shurtian Tower was extremely mysterious and ruthless. However, they never thought that after knowing him, they would discover that he was a true hero. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue did not make a move and instead started chatting, the referee could not help but remind them. The competition begins. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue glanced at the referee and said, I admit defeat. The audience was in an uproar. Immediately after, angry shouts rang out. It was not because of others, but because everyone bet that Mo Yunjue would win. They never thought that Mo Yunjue would actually admit defeat. However, compared to the anger of the crowd, Mo Yunjue was calm and indifferent. He did not care about the anger of others at all. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the joy of finding Bailey Hongzhuang. After coming down from the arena, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not stay and directly returned to their residence. After ordering a table of good wine and dishes, everyone sat down and had a good gathering. Young Lord Mo, I really did not expect to meet you here. When did you come to Penglai Island? Xiren poured a glass of wine for Mo Yunjue and asked with a smile. Mo Yunjue smiled slightly. I came a while ago. Before that, I had been in seclusion and did not know that you had come to Penglai Island. After I came out of seclusion, I wanted to find you all for a gathering. After that, I also set out. Come, let us all raise our glasses to welcome the arrival of Yunjue. Di Beichen raised his glass, his handsome face rippling with a charming smile. Welcome, welcome. Chapter 3759. Yunjue, we haven't seen each other for a while. I didn't expect your cultivation to have improved so much. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with admiration. He had always known that Mo Yunjue was a genius with a resounding reputation in the outside world. Now that they had not seen each other for a while, Mo Yunjue's strength had improved so much, and he had even obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower. It could be seen that his progress was extraordinary. I went through a trial and my strength improved, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Although it was said so simply, no one knew what kind of hell he had passed through to get here. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang got married, he appeared to be very free and easy, but only he knew the pain in his heart. He used to drink to drown his sorrows and was also addicted to cultivation. He just wanted to keep himself busy and not think about that figure anymore. Unfortunately, that figure had already been imprinted in his heart. How difficult would it be to forget it? Later, after knowing that Di Beichen had a problem with his physique, he had been helping to find medicinal herbs. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would set off for Penglai Island. At that time, he wanted to follow them, but he was told that only those with a cultivation of the 5th level of the Purple Realm could enter Penglai Island. Under impulse, he directly rushed into the trial of the Heavenly Slaughter Tower. That trial had always been notorious. Although it would greatly improve one's strength if one succeeded, the number of cultivators who died in it was also very shocking. He had never tried it before, but because he urgently needed to improve his cultivation, he rushed in. He said that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang needed him, he would definitely be there. This time, it was really a narrow escape, but in the end, he still walked out of the trial alive, and his strength did not disappoint. Your talent is not any weaker than mine. If it wasn't for the cursed body that suppressed your cultivation speed, your current cultivation would not be limited to this. However, now that your physique has changed into a physique that is extremely suitable for cultivation, I'm afraid that you will soon catch up to me. A smile appeared on Mo Yunjue's lips as he looked at Di Bei-chan with a hint of envy in his eyes. In the past, he cared about strength the most. But now, he envied Di Bei-chan for having Hong Zhuang's love. All right, since you've already found the herbs, why didn't you return? Mo Yunjue asked curiously. We originally planned to go back, but we felt that Penglai Island is a very suitable place to improve our cultivation, so we decided not to go back for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang said, Now, we are disciples of Penglai Palace. Penglai Palace, one of the 3 major powers? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, this was also an accident. Master Long of Penglai Palace tried to recruit us with a contract beast. Coincidentally, Beichin and the others didn't have a contract beast, so they agreed. Young Master Mo, do you also not have a contract beast? Xiren's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but ask. Mo Yunjue looked at Xiren in surprise and said, Indeed, I don't. Now that you have obtained the inheritance of the Demon Training Tower, it's time for you to become famous. I believe that Penglai Palace will definitely come to recruit you. When the time comes, don't be in a hurry to agree. Just ask for a contract beast. Following Xiren's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. Chapter 3760. Ao Lingxiao, what you said is wrong. Xiren straightened his expression. Young Master Mo's strength is not ordinary. Penglai Palace naturally has to offer some conditions to recruit him. This contract beast is what he needs. Our relationship with Master Long is indeed very good. His contract beast will be rewarded to Penglai Palace's disciples anyway. Now that we have such a relationship, Master Long will undoubtedly have another assistant. Isn't that great? Listening to Xiren's words that clearly didn't make any sense but seemed to make some sense, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but shake his head. Forget it. I can't win against you. Ha! Seeing Ao Lingxiao's speechless expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but chuckle. In terms of cunning, Xiren was the most powerful among them. If it wasn't for Xiren, they wouldn't have been able to obtain 3 contract beasts from Master Long. Xiren is right. Yinju, if you can obtain a contract beast, your battle strength will definitely be stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Mo Yunju nodded slightly. All right, since you're all in Penglai Palace, then I will also join Penglai Palace. Right? Yinju, how do you know that you will definitely meet us if you stay in this demon tower? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Mo Yunjue smiled faintly. You and Bei-chun are both possessors of the Blood Tower's inheritance. I feel that you will definitely not miss the Demon Tower after coming to Penglai Island, so I stayed here and waited for you. Previously, I also want to go to other places to find you, but there are many islands in Penglai Island. It won't be easy to find you. It's better to stay in a conspicuous place. This way, it will be easier to meet you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all understood. I didn't expect that we would meet an old friend on Penglai Island. This is really something worth celebrating. Tonight, everyone will drink until they are drunk. Everyone was overjoyed. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land was truly a great joy in life. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continue to spend their time in the arena area and the training area. Mo Yunjue didn't hesitate to share some of his experiences so that everyone could have a better understanding of the challenges. Compared with the peaceful life of Bailey Hongzhuang and others, Chu Yunyao's life was extremely unpleasant. Damn it, I won't be able to go out for a while. Chu Yunyao paced back and forth angrily, and her pretty face was covered with haze. You still have the nerve to say that. If you didn't cause such trouble, how could I not be able to get out? Chu Yunshang's face was even angrier. She didn't know what was going on. She only knew that Chu Yunyao was attacked. When she wanted to go out to avenge Chu Yunyao, she was also targeted. It wasn't that she went to find others for revenge at all, but that others directly regarded her as prey. After a careful understanding, they realized that someone had issued a bounty order in the Demon Refining Tower. What they wanted was the head of Chu Yunyao. The most terrible thing was that they were twin sisters. They looked exactly the same. Others couldn't tell them apart at all. Those cultivators couldn't tell them apart. They simply killed both of them when they saw them, so they could only stay in the Penglai Palace and couldn't go out at all. Not only that, they didn't even dare to go to the training area. They could only stay in their own residence because they didn't know if someone in the Penglai Palace would want to attack them. Chapter 3761. That damned Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would have thought that she would issue a bounty order in the magic refining tower? Chu Yunyao's face could not hide the depressed color. She really did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing. With her cultivation, even if ordinary cultivators issued a bounty order, no one would accept it because the risk was too great. If she was not careful, she might lose her life. But she ignored one point. As a doctor, Bailey Hongzhuang was really rich. This reward was also very coveted. So many people chose to try it. In such a case, she could only stay in the house. Otherwise, once she went out, she might be attacked at any time. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not easy to deal with. Of course, if you can't solve her, she will not let you be happy. Chu Yunshang's depression was no less than Chu Yunyao's. Who let the sisters have the same face? What should we do now? Do we just stay in a house like this? There is no other way except to stay in the house and cultivate. Otherwise, once we are plotted against, it will be the most dangerous. Chu Yunshang glanced at Chu Yunyao. You have a lot of enemies with your mouth on weekdays. It's rare for someone to hit you when you're down. It's better to be careful. If I stay in a house like this, I will be crazy. Chu Yunyao stamped her feet. Or I'll go directly to the magic refining tower to find Bailey Hongzhuang. I want to enter there with my own hands. At this time, don't be impulsive. It's not like you haven't been to the magic refining tower. You should have some understanding of the abnormal people in the magic refining tower. Since Bailey Hongzhuang dares to issue a bounty order in the magic refining tower, it proves that her appeal there is not small. If you go, aren't you walking into a trap? Chu Yunshang sighed. She was really helpless to Chu Yunyao. In addition to their appearance, the two sisters were completely opposite in temperament. I told you a long time ago, don't provoke trouble at will, let alone provoke alchemists or doctors. This kind of guy has always been a hornet's nest. Once provoked, you must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, you are asking for trouble. Although Bailey Hongzhuang is young, her medical skills are very good. I think there are many practitioners who are willing to let her owe them a favor. Sister, I know all this. Bailey Hongzhuang's departure was not an accident. If it wasn't for Bewitching's unexpected appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and others would have died in my hands. Do you know what the practitioners of Penglai Palace are talking about me? I have become a joke in their eyes. Thinking of this, Chu Yunyao was very angry. She had always been the existence that everyone was afraid of. A few days ago, she just went out, but she heard everyone say that she was a coward. She was so angry that she was going to die. She wanted to refute, but this fact was not persuasive at all. She was so angry that she was angry. Yunyao, don't think that I don't know why you want to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. If I didn't want the cloud spirit fruit you need, how could I have a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 3762. With Chu Yunshang's voice falling, Chu Yunyao's face suddenly became ugly. What do you mean by this? It's already very embarrassing that things have become like that. It's best to completely forget about it. Now everyone has gradually forgotten this news. Duan Huali obviously doesn't care about it. Why do you still entangle yourself in this matter? Over the years, Duan Huali, you have been tolerating you a lot. No one is a fool. Don't think that we don't know what you have done. It's just you deceiving yourself. Chu Yunshang stared at Chu Yunyao. She felt very helpless that Chu Yunyao had been immersed in Duan Huali's feelings. Speaking of which, she was really not like her sister at all. Chu Yunyao didn't expect her to be so persistent in her feelings. But Duan Huali obviously couldn't like her. If she continued to be stubborn, it would only be her who suffered. Looking at Chu Yunshang's helpless face, Chu Yunyao's expression gradually became ferocious. Forget about it. How can I have your ability? If I could forget, I wouldn't be like this now. If you hadn't interfered in the middle, I wouldn't have been reduced to this situation now. Chu Yunshang was slightly stunned, and her eyebrows could not help frowning. You? Chu Yunyao shouted angrily. I'm not as fickle as you. I can't forget like this. After the voice fell, Chu Yunyao didn't want to say anything more and closed the door. Chu Yunshang looked at the closed door, and the helplessness in her heart grew stronger and stronger. She didn't know when the relationship between her and Chu Yunyao had become like this. At the beginning, although their personalities were completely different, their relationship was very good. Who would have thought that it would become like this now? Although she was helpless in her heart, she was helpless. Now, no matter what she said, Chu Yunyao couldn't listen to it. Sometimes it would even have the opposite effect. Many times she didn't even want to pay attention to Chu Yunyao. But no matter what, she was her sister after all. Tiangang's sect. Ever since they found out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were safe and sound, Si Tian and Mu Jin's days had become much more comfortable, and they even went out to travel. This pair of lovers have been separated for dozens of years. Originally, they thought that they would never meet again in this lifetime. Fortunately, the heavens pitied them and allowed them to reunite in the end. It was just that after they got together, they didn't have many peaceful days. There were always many things involved. It wasn't until this moment that they could truly relax. This time, Si Tu Yin wanted to make up for the many years he had owed Mu Jinsei and repair their relationship that originally had some flaws. However, when they returned to Tiangang's sect, they unexpectedly heard Great Elder Qiao Xing say that a man had been waiting for them for a while. Hearing this news, Si Tian couldn't help but be stunned, and he immediately asked, "Do you know who it is?" Chapter 3763. Astonishing Strength. Si Tu Yin frowned. Can you roughly determine that person's cultivation? Qiao Zhang shook her head. I can't determine it. I only know that after he released his pressure, I couldn't move at all. As soon as these words came out, Si Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei's expressions changed. They knew very well how strong Qiao Zhang was. Even the pressure released by Si Tu Yin couldn't make Qiao Zhang unable to move. This was enough to show that the other party's strength was much stronger than Si Tu Yan's. This person was truly a powerful figure. Si Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei couldn't help but look at each other, secretly guessing in their hearts. Could it be that the other party was looking for trouble? However, after thinking about it, they didn't offend anyone, so they couldn't think of a possible opponent. Did the other party say his purpose in coming here? Mu Jinsei couldn't help but ask. They didn't have any enemies other than the Yu clan that they had already dealt with. Could it be that they had someone else coming for revenge? He only said that he came to confirm something with the sect master. He didn't have any ill intentions. I told him that the sect master had already gone out to travel and didn't know when he would return. However, he wasn't willing to leave, so I arranged for him to stay in the sect temporarily. He has been waiting for the sect master to return these days. Qiao Zhang looked at Si Tu Yin tentatively, not knowing if Si Tu Yin would blame her for this. However, the other party's cultivation was too strong. They weren't a match for him at all. If the other party wanted to barge in, they couldn't stop him at all. Rather than that, it was better to take advantage of the other party's kind words and directly invite him in. This way, they could avoid a conflict. Hearing this, C2 Yin nodded, but the doubt in his eyes grew stronger. From the other party's attitude, he believed that the other party wasn't looking for trouble. However, he was curious about what the other party wanted to confirm. I understand. Leave this matter to me. You can leave first. C2 Yin waved his hand. Yes. After Qiao Xing left, Mu Jinsei couldn't help but say, the other party is so young and his cultivation is very strong. Do you think he came from Penglai Island? Hearing this, C2 Yan's eyes shone. According to what you said, it's very likely. If this person really came from Penglai Island, then it's very likely that he came with ill intentions. Mu Jin's eyes darkened, her expression complicated. If he is Beichen's friend, then he doesn't need to confirm anything at all. But now, he wants to confirm something with us. Could it be that he doesn't know the true relationship between us and Beichen, so he wants to confirm it? C2 Yin's eyes flickered with the light of contemplation. He pondered for a moment and said, since the other party has been waiting here for us to return, it is obvious that he will not give up until he achieves his goal. It is meaningless for us to continue guessing here. Why don't we go and investigate? We will know his true intentions after we ask him. You're right. Mu Jinsei nodded, her gaze becoming resolute. Let's go and see what's going on. If the other party is really looking for trouble, we'll think of something else. Chapter 3764. When C2 Yin and Mu Jins arrived, they saw a man in blue robes. He was about 30 years old and had an extraordinary handsome appearance. His entire body exuded a scholarly temperament, and his every movement exuded an indescribable noble aura. Just by standing there quietly, he made people feel an inexplicable pressure. They didn't dare to underestimate him in the slightest. C2 Yin and Mu Jins were both people with great eyesight. Just by looking at the other party's posture, they knew that he was definitely not an ordinary person. This kind of aura was not something an ordinary person could possess. The nobility and power that came from his bones was not something that could be cultivated in a short period of time. May I know what business you have with my Tiangang sect? C2 Yin went straight to the point. When the other party saw that C2 Yin and Mu Jins had returned, he seemed very happy. A faint smile suddenly appeared on his face, making his already handsome face even more charming. He cupped his hands towards C2 Yin and Mu Jins and said, I've taken the liberty to disturb you. I hope Sect Master C2 and Madam won't take offense. I've come this time to verify something with Sect Master C2's day. I hope Sect Master C2 can tell me. Seeing the other party's courteous appearance, C2 Yin and Mu Jin's expressions immediately became better. However, they didn't let down their guard because of this. After all, if the other party was looking for trouble, then they had to be careful. They had never been to Penglai Island, but they were full of reverence for it. If the forces there wanted to find trouble with them, then it would be terrible. As everyone knew, Penglai Island's forces were the top forces in Shengxian continent. Although Tiangang sect was very strong in the outside world, it couldn't be compared to Penglai Island's forces. Moreover, the cultivation of the man in front of them was unfathomable. They had already probed him after entering, but they couldn't sense the other party's depth. It could be seen how terrifying he was. May I know what you want to ask? C2 Yan's expression was calm and indifferent as he slowly asked. The other party fell into a short period of silence, as if he was thinking about how to phrase it. Then he said, I come from Penglai Island. C2 Yin and Mu Jins glanced at each other, and their hearts thumped. It seemed that their judgment was right. The other party really did come from Penglai Island. This matter wouldn't be easy to handle. However, the other party's next words stunned them. Sect Master Situ, I heard that Di Beichun is a child you adopted, right? Situ Yin frowned and could not help but feel puzzled. If the other party was looking for trouble, he could have just come straight to the point. But why would he ask if Di Beichun was adopted by him? If he were to make an issue out of this, it would be meaningless. However, he wasn't in a hurry to express his stance. Instead, He wanted to see what the other party intended to do. That's right, Bewitching was indeed adopted by me. How old was he when you adopted him? The man continued to ask. His bright eyes flashed with eagerness. Clearly, he was very concerned about this matter. Noticing the change in the other party's expression, CTN was even more confused. When I picked up Bewitching, he was still a baby in swaddling clothes. He was only a few months old. Chapter 3765. That was 23 years ago. After CTN replied, he couldn't help but size up the other party. He secretly cursed in his heart. He seems to be extremely concerned about Bewitching's background. He doesn't seem to be here to cause trouble. Could it be that he knows about Bewitching's background? After the man heard CTN's answer, his breathing clearly stopped. His hands under his sleeves clenched into fists, and his expression was somewhat out of control. After taking a deep breath for a moment, he spoke again. Sect Master CTN, I heard that you've been looking for the tears of cold flame and a few other herbs. Is it because Bewitching has the cursed body? At this moment, a trace of surprise flashed in CTN's eyes. How did you know? Why are you asking so many questions about Bewitching? Mujins couldn't help but ask at this moment. The other party's behavior was simply too strange. He didn't seem to care about anything else. The only thing he cared about was Bewitching's background. Especially after receiving CTN's answer, the excitement in his eyes was already overflowing. She also had some guesses in her heart. This one is Dujua. The man restrained his expression, and his tone was somewhat serious. After the man said his name, CTN's expression changed slightly, and he asked in surprise, Your surname is D? That's right. Dujua nodded. I'm sure Sect Master CTN has already guessed my purpose for coming here. I'm here to find Bewitching. If I'm not wrong, he's very likely my son. Dujua's words were undoubtedly a heavy bomb that exploded in CTN and Mujin's hearts. The room suddenly quieted down, and the atmosphere became stagnant. It was as if time had stopped. CTN and Mujin found it difficult to digest this news. They stared blankly at Dujua in front of them, wondering if they had heard wrong, because this was simply too unbelievable. However, from the other party's serious expression, they could tell that he wasn't joking. On the contrary, he was extremely serious. How did you come to this conclusion? Situyan's expression became solemn. He had been very concerned about Bewitching's background all these years, because he knew very well that although Bewitching usually did not say much, he had always been very concerned about his background. Over the years, he had gone to the place where he found Bewitching many times, hoping to find Bewitching's biological parents, in order to fulfill the regret in Bewitching's heart. Unfortunately, after so long, there was no result. Not only in that area, but in the past 20 years, he had also been to many other places. While searching for Mujin Se, he had also inquired about Bewitching's parents. However, there had been no news of them. It was as if they had never appeared and did not leave behind any traces. Back then, Bewitching had been very concerned about this matter, but in recent years, there had been no news at all. Bewitching seemed to have gradually given up on this matter and was about to give up. However, he never thought that just when they thought it was impossible to find Bewitching's biological father, a man would appear and claim to be Bewitching's biological father. This really shocked him. Chapter 3766. Ever since my son was born, it was determined that he had the cursed physique. However, our family has already researched a treatment method for the cursed physique, so there is no problem. We just need to wait for him to grow up before we can change his physique. Back then, I went out once and wanted to bring my son to meet a friend. I never thought that I would lose the child because of my carelessness. Speaking of this, Dujua's voice was filled with regret and shame. This was definitely the worst thing he had done in his life. Every night, he would dream of the situation back then. He hoped that he could make up for this mistake. Unfortunately, it was still a dream in the end. All these years, I have been searching for my son's whereabouts, but there was no news at all. The tears of frigid flame and these few medicinal herbs have always been collected by our family in order to change the physique of the family's cultivators. A few days ago, I suddenly heard that your sect's young master also needs these medicinal herbs. I felt that this might not be a coincidence, so I came to investigate because the possibility of the cursed physique appearing is very small, Diujua said slowly. Back then, he accidentally lost his child. In the blink of an eye, 23 years had passed. In these 23 years, he had not been happy for a single day. Everyone in the family blamed him, causing him to be too ashamed to continue staying. As a father, he was even more unable to forgive himself. When he thought of the various dangers that Bewitching might have encountered after he was lost, or that he might have disappeared from this world, or that he might have thought that he was an orphan who was abandoned by his parents when he was born, his heart ached to the extreme. For so many years, he had sent people to many places to search for him, but there was no news. This time, he had accidentally received this news, so he wanted to ask about it. However, he did not have much hope. However, after knowing that Bewitching was adopted, he felt that the possibility of this was higher, so he came. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he was not willing to give up. Moreover, the existence of the cursed physique was not so coincidental. However, the answers that he asked Situyen just now coincided with this situation, so he could not help but gradually began to believe it. Hearing Diujua's words, Situyen's pupils could not help but dilate a little, and he felt complicated. Do you have any evidence to prove this? Situyen's eyes sank. Many people who knew him knew that Bewitching was picked up by him, and they also knew about the cursed body. These were not secrets. If someone deliberately wanted to fabricate such a lie, it was completely possible to fabricate it. Diujua didn't seem to find Situyen's question strange at all. He then said, when Sect Master Situ picked up Bewitching, did you notice that he was wearing a jade pendant? As Diujua's voice fell, Situyen's eyes suddenly filled with shock. If what Diujua said before had made him suspicious, then after Diujua said this, he suddenly began to believe everything the former said. Chapter 3767. The way Situyen looked at Diujua changed abruptly. There was less suspicion and hostility, and more trust and pleasant surprise in his eyes. Although everyone knew that he had adopted Bewitching many years ago, only he, Bewitching, and Bailey Hongzhuang knew about this jade pendant. Apart from them, he had never mentioned it to anyone else. The others were also completely unaware that Bewitching had such a keepsake on him. However, the other party had directly revealed the origin of this jade pendant. What's more, his surname was D. This meant that the person in front of him was very likely to be Bewitching's biological father. Thinking of this, Situyen could not help but feel a burst of joy in his heart. As the master who had watched Bewitching grow up, he had long regarded Bewitching as his own grandson. Now that he had the opportunity to see his grandson solve this knot in his heart, he was naturally very happy. Although Mu Jins did not know about this, she understood that Diujua was probably telling the truth from Situyen's gradually changing expression. I see. A smile appeared on Situyen's face. When I first found Bewitching, he was wearing a jade pendant with the word D carved on it. Following Situyen's words, Diujua's face flashed with uncontrollable surprise. Sectmaster C2, is what you said true? Because he was too excited, Diujua's voice could not help but tremble a little. He had been searching for his son for a total of 23 years. In these 23 years, he had held on to hope countless times but returned in disappointment. He never thought that he would finally find him this time. For a moment, he found it hard to control his emotions. C2 nodded. When I first saw his jade pendant, I gave him the surname D because this was the only connection left between him and his parents. I never thought that my judgment would be right. His surname is D. A look of surprise flashed in Diujua's eyes. Previously, he had been curious as to why Bewitching also happened to have the surname D. He never thought that it would be for this reason. Sectmaster C2 is indeed quick-witted. Diujua cupped his hands. May I ask where Di Beichun is now? Can I see him? His dark and deep eyes rippled with excitement. Thinking back, he had only spent a short 3 months with his son. Now that Di Beichun was already 23 years old, he did not know what he looked like. All these years, he had been dreaming of the day he would meet his son. Listening to Di Yujue's words, Si Tu Yin and Mu looked at each other helplessly. For so many years, they had been searching for the whereabouts of Di Beichun's biological parents, but there was no news at all. Now that Di Beichun had gone to Penglai Island, his father from Penglai Island had come here to look for him. It was a freak combination of factors, really a freak combination of factors. Noticing the expressions of Si Tu Yin and Mu Jin, the excitement in Di Yujue's eyes faded a little and was replaced with a trace of worry. Why do sect masters Si Tu and Madam have such expressions? Could it be that something happened to Beichun recently? Seeing how worried Di Yujue was, Si Tu Yin hurriedly waved his hand and said, "That's not the case. Young Master Di, there's no need to worry. It's just that coincidentally, Zi Beichun went to Penglai Island a few days ago and is not here now." Chapter 3768. Di Yujue's mind couldn't help but think of a tall white figure. That incomparably handsome face, the two of them felt like old friends at first sight. Could it be that the son he was looking for was the Di Beichun he met on Penglai Island? When he heard that the young master of Tiangang's sect was called Di Beichun, he was very puzzled. However, there were many people with the same name in the world. He didn't believe that things would be so coincidental. However, if Di Beichun went to Penglai Island, then he should be the same person as the Di Beichun he met, right? Seeing Di Yujue fall into silence, Si Tu Yin thought that Di Yujue didn't believe what he said, so he couldn't help but explain. Beichun's cursed body is acting up. Hong Zhuang said that in order to completely cure Beichun's cursed body, we must find those medicinal herbs. We have found all the other medicinal herbs, but we are missing the purple dragon emperor ginseng and the tears of frigid flame. Originally, I planned to go to Penglai Island with Hong Zhuang's father and master, but these two children didn't want us to take the risk, so they left directly when we weren't paying attention. Fortunately, they sent a letter back a few days ago. It said that they met a benefactor and gave them the tears of frigid flame. Beichun's cursed body has now turned into a destiny body. If Di Yujue had some doubts at first, after hearing this, he couldn't be sure anymore. The Di Beichun he met was the young master of Tiangang's sect, his long-lost son. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that I met him long ago, but I couldn't recognize him. Di Yujue's voice was full of emotion. He finally understood why he, who always kept a certain distance with others, had a feeling of familiarity with Di Beichun at first sight. It turned out that this was the blood affection in the bones. The tears of frigid flame was an extremely important medicinal ingredient to the clan. Even if others came to ask for it, he would never give it to them. However, he had only met Di Beichun once, yet he was willing to give him the tears of frigid fire. When he made this decision, even he himself was a little surprised, but he never regretted it from the beginning to the end. Now that he knew the truth, he couldn't help but rejoice that he had given the tears of frostfire to Di Beichun. Otherwise, with Di Beichun's current condition, he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. He would definitely regret it. You two have already met? Si Tu Yin looked at Di Yujue in surprise and asked. Di Yujue nodded. Previously, when I was at Penglai Island, I felt like old friends at first sight. The tears of frigid flame was given to him by me. Si Tu Yin and Mu Jin say couldn't help but widen their eyes. That benefactor is you? That's right. A smile appeared on Di Yujue's face. Sure enough, it's fate. When he thought of Di Beichun's appearance, Di Yujue's mood became infinitely better. Originally, he was still a little worried, not knowing how his son had grown up, but now it seemed that he didn't need to worry at all. His son had been raised very well. So that's how it is. Si Tu Yan's face also showed a smile. I was wondering why Beichun's search for medicinal ingredients was so easy. It turns out that his father was helping him. At this moment, Si Tuyin no longer had any doubts about Di Yujue's identity. Chapter 3769. I wonder who this Hong Zhuang you're talking about is. Di Yujue couldn't help but ask. His mind couldn't help but think of the beautiful figure that accompanied Di Beichen. Hong Zhuang is my granddaughter and Beichen's wife. Hearing this, Di Yujue immediately understood. So that's how it is. We've also met on Penglai Island. I wonder if they're doing well when young Master Di saw them? Mu Jins asked with concern. Although Di Beichen and the others had sent back a letter saying that they were doing well, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. What's more, these two little guys didn't want them to worry, so it was normal for them to only report good news and not bad news. Looking at Mu Jin's concerned look, Di Yujue's smile widened a bit. Don't worry, they're doing well. That's good. Mu Jins nodded. Then we can rest assured. These two little guys have gone out to explore, so us old fellows are really worried. In the past, I've always been worried that Beichen wouldn't have a good time these years, and my heart was filled with endless regret. I didn't expect that Beichen's luck would be so good, to be able to receive your care and concern. Di Yujue's heart was comforted. He could see that Si Tuyin and Mu Jin's concern for Di Beichen was not fake. In fact, just from the fact that Di Beichen could become the young sect master of Tiangang sect, it could be seen that if they didn't treat him well enough, the position of young sect master would not have fallen on his head. What's more, Si Tian had married his granddaughter to him. He couldn't help but think of the conversation he had with Di Beichen before he left. This guy's character was very similar to his own. From Di Beichen's performance, it could be seen that he and Bailey Hongzhuang were very loving. As Di Beichen's biological parents, they had never participated in his life. Now that he was married, he had already walked on an excellent path in life. It's my fortune to be able to adopt Beichen. Si Tuyan's face was full of smiles. If it weren't for Di Beichen by his side all the time, he would have been alone before. Thank you, Sect Master Sidu, for taking care of Beichen all these years. I can't thank you enough. Di Yujue bowed deeply towards Si Tuyan. His pitch-black eyes were filled with deep gratitude, and there were even some tears that were faintly surging. God took pity on Di Beichen and allowed him to meet Si Tuyan. If he had not met Si Tuyan, he did not even know if he would still be alive in this world. Thinking of this, Di Yujue was extremely grateful to Si Tuyan. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been able to meet such a good person like Di Beichen. Young Master Di is too polite. Si Tuyan quickly helped Di Yujue up. Just by looking at Di Yujue's bearing, it could be seen that his status in Penglai Island was not ordinary. Earlier, Di Yujue had already said that his clan was located on the Penglai Island. From this, one could see how terrifying his clan was. Most probably, the Tiangang sect was nothing in his eyes. Such a person was now bowing to him. It could be seen that Di Yujue was sincerely grateful to him. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. If it wasn't for Sect Master Situ who adopted him and nurtured him well, I might not be able to be truly happy in this life. It's all thanks to Sect Master Situ that my son can be like this. Chapter 3770. Di Yujue's expression was serious. His words were like an oath, sincere and persistent. Si Tuyan's kindness in raising Di Beichen was not something that could be easily repaid. In other words, Di Yujue owed Si Tuyan this favor for the rest of his life. Seeing Di Yujue like this, Si Tuyan and Mu Jins felt gratified in their hearts. No wonder Di Beichen had always been so outstanding. He must have taken after his father. Young Master Di, you don't need to be like this. Si Tuyan said, I adopted Beichen. In fact, Beichen has been accompanying this old man all these years. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. Otherwise, this old man would have been very lonely all these years. Hearing Si Tuyan call himself an old man, Di Yujue remembered that Si Tuyan said that Bailey Hongzhuang was his granddaughter. That meant that he was someone from his grandfather's generation. However, Si Tuyan and Mu Jins in front of him looked like they were in their 20s. He really couldn't associate them with someone from his grandfather's generation. Most importantly, he sensed that Si Tian and Mu Jin's cultivation wasn't very strong. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to be so young. With his cultivation, he looked to be around 30 years old. He was actually older than Si Tuyin and Mu Jin's. This was truly a little surprising. Noticing the change in Di Yujue's expression, Si Tian couldn't help but smile and ask, "Does young Master Di think that my appearance is too young?" When he found out that Di Yujue was actually Di Beichen's father, Si Tian sighed in his heart. He looked completely like Di Beichen's big brother. He didn't look like his father at all. The reason why he looked like this was entirely because of Di Yujue's strength. Therefore, without Di Yujue making a move, he knew that Di Yujue's strength must be extremely terrifying. Di Yujue nodded and asked doubtfully, "Could it be the rejuvenation pill?" "That's right, it's the rejuvenation pill. Young Master Di has good eyesight," Situ Yin said with a smile. Hearing Situ Yan's reply, the surprise in Di Yujue's eyes became even more intense. The pill formula for this rejuvenation pill has long been lost. I didn't expect Sect Master Situ to actually have the rejuvenation pill. It seems like your noble sect has a top alchemist. At this point, Di Yujue couldn't help but think of Di Beichen. He said, "I believe that the fact that Beichen's cursed body could be suppressed until now has a lot to do with this expert." Previously, the Emperor's Elder also felt that Di Beichen was the person they were looking for. However, he felt that although Di Beichen and his son were similar in age, their cultivation was very good. Under the control of the cursed body, it was impossible for him to reach such a cultivation level. In fact, he was already half paralyzed. However, Di Beichen had always been fine. This proved that there must be an expert by his side who knew how to restrain the cursed body. Otherwise, Di Beichen would not have been able to survive until now. Situ Yin couldn't help but chuckle. There is indeed a very powerful alchemist. She is my granddaughter. Di Yujue couldn't help but be stunned. Then, his eyes flashed with deep surprise. Sect Master Situ is talking about Hong Zhuang. That's right. Hong Zhuang's attainments in alchemy are very powerful. In the past, when Beichen's cursed body acted up, the doctors were helpless. We only thought that Beichen would never be able to stand up again. We didn't expect to meet Hong Zhuang. Only then did we have a chance. Chapter 3771. Could it be? Beichen's cursed body was also cured by Hong Zhuang? A look of intense shock flashed across Di Yujue's face. They knew very well just how difficult it was to deal with this cursed body. Ordinary doctors or alchemists were completely helpless against it. If their families had not searched for it for many years, it would have been difficult to solve this problem. He had met Di Beichen's wife, Bailey Hongzhuang, before. Although he had seen her disguised appearance and did not know her true appearance, she was definitely younger than Di Beichen. At such a young age, she was able to cure the cursed body and refine the return of Spring Pill. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in alchemy were simply astonishing. Forget about the outside world. Even in their world, to be able to possess such alchemy skills at such a young age, she was definitely worthy of being called a genius. Situ Yin nodded. That's right. If Hong Zhuang had not recognized that Beichen's cursed body had flared up, we would have thought that someone had poisoned him and had been busy searching for the culprit. Thinking of this, Situ Yin sighed. He could understand Di Yujue's current emotions very well. Didn't they just reunite with Hong Zhuang not too long ago? During Hong Zhuang's growth, their family had not been of much help at all. However, what was worth celebrating was that Hong Zhuang had grown up very well. She was so outstanding that it shocked them. Until now, they still did not know how Bailey Hongzhuang had grown to such a level. Whether it was her medical skills or her alchemy skills, she had reached the peak. What kind of status did the Yu family have? What kind of person was Bailey Hongzhuang? Yet, her medical skills had surpassed her. She was truly amazing. I never thought that Beichen's wife would be so amazing. Di Yujue's tone was full of admiration. No wonder Beichen could grow up to be so outstanding. It's all because of Sect Master Situ's good upbringing. This granddaughter of yours is even more stunning. Hearing Di Yujue's praise, Si Tian and Mu Jin's couldn't help but look at each other with a helpless expression. That's not the case. The fact that Hong Zhuang could grow to this extent has nothing to do with us. Di Yujue raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, I think Hong Zhuang's parents must be very powerful people. Seeing that Di Yujue had misunderstood them, Situ Yin continued, Actually, our situation is somewhat similar to Mr. D's. Hong Zhuang has been wandering outside all these years. She only met us not long ago. Hearing this, Di Yujue couldn't help but be stunned. You mean to say that Miss Bailey also grew up on her own? I'm ashamed to say this. Situ Yin nodded helplessly. At that time, Hong Zhuang's parents were chased by villains and had no choice but to leave Hong Zhuang outside. All these years, it has been Hong Zhuang alone until last year when Hong Zhuang rescued her parents. Beichen's growth is related to me, but Hong Zhuang completely relied on herself to get to where she is today. It is precisely because of this that I understand Mr. D's feelings very well. Although Di Yujue said it very simply, he believed that something must have happened when Di Yujue lost Di Beichen. Otherwise, with Di Yujue's strength and the importance he attached to Di Beichen, he would definitely not lose his son. Therefore, he could completely understand. Chapter 3772. For Miss Bailey to be able to achieve so much on her own, it's really amazing. It can be seen that she is a true genius. Di Yujue couldn't help but recall the conversation he had with Di Beichen. Di Beichen was also extremely fond of Bailey Hongzhuang. At that time, he only had some interactions with Di Beichen. He didn't have a deep impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be such an outstanding woman. Fortunately, Di Beichen met Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, he couldn't imagine the consequences. Sect Master Situ and Madam are also very lucky to have such a granddaughter. They don't need to worry at all. Hearing this, Situ Yin and Mu Jin's faces also revealed a big smile. They had always been very satisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. Young Master D, we didn't find any news about you before, so the marriage between Beichen and Hong Zhuang will be decided by us. You see, Situ Yan's dark eyes flashed with a bright light. Di Yujue was Di Beichen's father, but he couldn't attend his son's wedding. It was a big regret. The most important thing was that he didn't know if Di Yujue was satisfied with this marriage. After all, the families in Penglai Island must be very terrifying. If they were to talk about equal social status, Hong Zhuang's identity might not be enough. Mu Jin's also understood Situ Yan's worries. Di Yujue only appeared now. They didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang finally got together and could finally live together. If Di Beichen's family didn't agree, then things would be troublesome. Di Yujue was very smart. He immediately heard the worry in Situ Yan's words and said with a smile, All these years, I have been raised by Sect Master Situ. Naturally, Sect Master Situ has the right to decide on Beichen's marriage. Moreover, Miss Bailey is so outstanding. That is our Beichen's good fortune. As long as he could find Beichen, this was already the happiest thing for him. Now that Beichen had a family, although it was beyond his expectations, he was also very satisfied with this marriage. Only then did Situ Yin heave a sigh of relief. The corners of his lips curled up a little. I'm relieved to hear that, young Master D. I wonder where Miss Bailey's parents are? I also want to see my in-laws and thank them for marrying their precious daughter to Beichen. Di Yujue's smile was gentle and warm. Now that he knew the whereabouts of his son, he was completely relieved. After returning, he only needed to send people to inquire about the whereabouts of Di Beichen and the rest. Since he was already here, he should see his in-laws and not be impolite. They are at the lawn estate. If young Master D wants to see them, I can bring you to see them. Then I'll have to trouble Sect Master Situ. The atmosphere became very harmonious. Although it was the first time both sides met, with Di Beichen's relationship, they were family. when Situ Yin and Mu Jintz brought Di Yujue to the Lan estate. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were puzzled. They didn't know what kind of person Di Yujue was. While they were sizing up Di Yujue was also sizing them up. At the very least, it was good to listen. Situ knew what Di Yujue was thinking. Following that, he told him all the interesting things that had happened to Di Beichen while he was growing up. Instantly, the room was filled with laughter. Time quietly passed during this conversation. However, no one noticed it at all. It was only when night fell and the servants reminded them that it was time for dinner that they reacted. Chapter 3774. The moon hung high in the sky, and the night was as cool as water. Di Yujue stood in front of the windowsill. The faint moonlight shone on his body, making him look misty and cold. Raising his head to look at the round moon, a feeling of longing gradually surged in Di Yujue's heart. Ever since he had lost his son, he had not seen the full moon in the family for a long time. The smile on Di Yujue's face softened as a smile widened. After so many years, finally, he had found his son's whereabouts. Even though he had not returned yet, he could imagine how happy his family would be when they heard the news. Their family would be reunited soon. He believed that everyone would feel very gratified to see Di Beichen. His wife had been unwilling to see him all these years. This time, he could finally be forgiven by her. Their son was still alive and well. He had grown up to be so outstanding. Yinxing, it's been so many years, and you've refused to forgive me. You didn't even want to see me. I understand that you hate me for losing our son. Now, I've finally found our son. Once I return to Penglai Island, I'll bring him to see you. In the future, our family will be able to live happily together. Di Yujue murmured. All these years, everyone had thought of him as a hero, but only his family knew that it was all just a facade. In the past, he had always thought that he was very successful. However, ever since that incident, he had become a complete failure. He was such a failure. He could not even protect his own family. Why did he have to be the head of the Di family? Fortunately, God had given him a chance to redeem himself. This was the happiest day in his 23 years of life. In the room, Father, how did you confirm that Master Di is Beichen's father? Mu Lingbing stared at Situ Yin. Today, it was not convenient for her to ask in front of Di Yujue. However, she still had some doubts in her heart. After all, this matter was related to Beichen's background. They had to get to the bottom of this. I know you have doubts, but I've already confirmed it. There's no need for you to doubt it. Situ Yin smiled faintly. When my father found Beichen, there was a jade pendant hanging on Beichen's body. Di Yujue immediately pointed out the jade pendant's appearance and origin. With his status, there was no need for him to lie. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing understood. So that's how it is. I knew that Beichen was not abandoned by his parents. Beichen would be very happy after learning of this matter. Yes, in my opinion, this young Master Di is a very good person. Situ Yin sighed, but his expression was somewhat complicated. Beichen's family was on Penglai Island. It was very likely that they would stay there in the future. After all, that was the best place for Beichen to develop. Father, you don't have to worry. With Beichen's filial piety, even if he decides to stay on Penglai Island in the future, he will definitely come to see you often. With Lan Yunxiao's intelligence, he could guess Situ Yan's inner thoughts just by noticing the desolation in his eyes. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.